So all the things we're talking here all this time, the point of all of it, the Buddha, like it's been saying repeatedly, is that right now, having these delusions in our mind, they cause us suffering, they're painful, and because they embellish and distort reality, we're out of touch with reality. Because we see things wrongly, we make mistakes and we harm ourselves and others. And that's samsara. So the job of being a Buddhist is to remove the delusions from the mind so we get to see what is evident already. So the way Buddha's talking about reality, and this is the major, major difference between this spiritual path and, say, the creator ones, where we just assume that the information is coming from God, who created it. It's so different, you can't even say it's the same thing. You can't talk about them in the same breath. Really, Buddha, from this point of view, is more like Einstein, more like a scientist. The concept of a creator is so completely different. But we're so used to thinking all the information coming in religions is coming from on high, is coming from God. He created it. And so our job is to believe it. I'm not complaining. That's so totally not what Buddha is. Buddha was a regular guy like you and me, who, with his own hard work, removed this pollution from his mind and came to see what is true. So he says, how emptiness is true. Karma is true. Consciousness being not physical is true. He's not being arrogant and say, you better believe me. That's why as soon as we hear religions say that they're true, we think they're rude. That's why we should think they're all the same. We want to be all wishy-washy. It's ridiculous. Einstein, when he presents relativity, he doesn't, kind of get all wishy-washy. Well, I think it's true, and maybe it's true, and you can all just believe it, but it's really the same as everything else. What a pathetic idea. He says, hey, this is true. But why is it true? Because he's done the nuts and bolts of the work, and he's come to conclusions and says, this is how it is. I've seen it to be so. And if you want to check up and see that I'm right, here's the information, go do it yourself. He doesn't say believe me, and it doesn't come from on high. He didn't make it up. He's not speculating. It's exactly like that with Buddha. And I mean exactly like that with Buddha. That's exactly the approach. Every word that is called Buddhism, you better check that it's valid, is coming from the mind of the Buddha. Not making it up, but seeing it. Emptiness is right there in front of us in the cup. We just can't see it, it's thick as posts. Impermanence is right there. Right there. Emptiness is a characteristic of everything that exists. So don't close your eyes and get all cosmic about emptiness. Look at cups and toilets and shit and piss. It's all empty. Emptiness is existing in that which exists. Karma is the way the world is. It's what the mind does. Mind is not physical. Mind is beginningless. No such thing as a creator. He doesn't argue about superior being. He accepts that, but not the job of creator. And Buddha says, this is how it is. Don't believe me? Go check it. Here's my information. Here are my methods. Here are my protocols. Here's my technology. Go follow it yourself. And as the Dalai Lama says, if you move along and you get to a certain point and you do what he says and you don't find what he says, then he's wrong. Chuck him out. Bye, Buddha. See you, mate. It's up to us. Buddha's dealing with truth. And for him, truth comes with happiness. Because ignorance comes with suffering. So the method to get happy, which sounds exciting, we're not sure if we want to get wisdom. That sounds a bit boring. Happy? Yeah, hey, I want that. Well, get wisdom. That's the method. Which means get rid of the delusions, which lie to you about how things exist. He says things don't exist the way we think they are. Our mothers didn't make us. Our fathers didn't make us. Our mind isn't the brain. God didn't create us. Things don't come from nowhere. Things are cause and effect. Things are empty. It's just truth, he says. It's facts. And why we find it so hard to see is because we're thick with the delusions of the opposite. That's all. We're as thick as posts. Like I said, ignorance is easy if you just say you don't know. There's a great big space in there. You just fill it with the truth. We'd become a Buddha in a day if our ignorance were like that. But no, our ignorance has made up eons of nonsense, of garbage that we are deeply, frantically invested in believing. So it's like ripping off your skin to change our views. So it's hard work. It's up to us to find out if Buddha's true. Don't believe him. That's why I purposely never use that word. I never use the word believe. I say I'll use it as my working hypothesis. And it's very relaxing when you say that because it forces you to be intelligent. It forces you not to suck into belief. Just cheap and easy. It's intellectual laziness, Doesn't mean you can't have confidence. Confidence, confide, with trust, with faith, based on intelligence and wisdom. That's different. Then massive faith, massive devotion. based on intelligence, based on confidence, you know. So the function of, so the job is to change our mind, like I'm saying, see things differently. So we train our mind in faking it till we make it, but say the words, pretending it's that. We don't realise it's empty, but we say the words. We don't have bodhicitta yet, but we say the words. Very powerful step in that direction. So that's the job day to day. We fake it till we make it. But this is why, because of this massive ignorance, is why we need purification. Why we need to put atomic bombs under all the junk. So our ability to see emptiness is dependent upon purification, because the misconceptions and delusions are so huge. We've got to use skillful methods to kind of rip them out, you know. Not enough just to plod along with the mind every day, like I've been saying. We've got to do these practices. This is a Tibetan understanding. We've got, which is coming from the Mahayana, the Tantra path in India, we've got to do all these practices that bring in the Buddhas, where we create super merit and super purification, get all this thing of blessings and all this stuff. It's all valid, it's all psychology, there's logic to it when we understand. We must incorporate that into our practice according to the Tibetan tradition. You'll never, ever, 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 ever remove the delusions from the mind if you just be your own therapist. You go for an eternity. Watch your breath. You can watch your breath for an eternity. You won't remove the delusions. You won't see emptiness. So we've got to use all these extra methods. We've got a lot of power that bring in the Buddhas, that bring in confidence and faith, if you wish, devotion, all these things. And then we can't force that. Take it at our pace, you know. So actual practice. There's like a story about one Kadampa Lama or something. I forget the exact. I always get confused with these stories. They all tell differently, you know. It's all oral. There's no written down thing. So, you know, you hear while somebody's working around circumambulating. I think, was it to Atisha? I don't remember. Yeah, that's great. I want you to practice Dharma. Oh, all right, I better prostrate. No, that's great. I want you to practice, but I want you to practice Dharma. I'll do some mantras. That's great, but I want you to practice Dharma. John Tomba, thank you. He said it. He was the one saying, I want you to practice. Okay. So then, what it means is work on your mind. And that means you're sitting at the kitchen sink, doing the dishes, annoyed with your kid, you know, and you work, and you notice you're angry, and you change your mind. That's Dharma practice. But you've got to do your mantras and your prostrations in the morning, which are like the purification and the merit that kind of loosen all the junk in the mind. So it makes it easier while you're at the kitchen sink to work on your anger. This is the way it functions. It's not enough just to do your mantras. That's okay, better than nothing, because next life maybe you'll practice. But you're sowing strong seeds and having strong connection by doing your mantras and doing your stuff, which is the faith part. Nothing wrong, it's a good stepping stone. You can be assured, because of the strong karmic connections, you'll meet the Buddha again. But at some point you've got to squeeze your brain and learn the stuff. So it's best to start now. So working on your mind on its own, without any of the other stuff, not enough power. Just doing the other stuff, not enough to get the realization. We need both. We need both. So if you haven't got a Lama yet, you can't force it, but pray every day to the Buddha. Aspire. Please guide me to meet my Lama. Please guide me to meet my lineage, you know. If you have any confidence in the Buddha, talk to the Buddha. That's what prayer is. Just chat away like he's your friend. You know. Please guide me to meet my Lama, meet my lineage, you know, like this. If you have met your Lama, then you develop the Guru devotion, see him as the Buddha, and you do your practices. And then really learn to understand logically how this is so powerful. Read the teachings. That's all in there. It's all there, you know. And then if you do take vows, like remember the power of vows, again, remember the technical reason why a vow to not kill is so powerful. Lama Zopa says, again, I remember, I'll quote, I remember him saying, you know, you could have a person doing lots and lots of their practices, doing their mantra, doing their prostrations, blah, 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 so powerful, but doesn't have a vow not to kill. Like one vow, not to kill. So that person, only when they make a decision and they see the ant and the intention rises, I must not kill, that moment is a karma of not killing. Only when the intention, because intention equals karma. It means it. It's only when you think, I will not kill the ant, that intention, I will not kill the ant, that's when you create some merit from not killing. The rest of the day, you're not thinking of not killing, therefore no karma created of not killing. Do you get this point? Clearly, it's so important. So when you have a vow, it's like cheap and easy. You can go sleep the whole day. I'm not joking. The power of vow is such, and Lord Buddha says this, all the Tibetans really get this one. The power of vow is so stupendous, but, and like I said, you've got this subtle energy that's visible to clairvoyance, the person is living in the purity of vows. Because you've made this powerful commitment, I will never kill. It's super incredible. Then 24 hours a day, you're ticking over virtuous karma and purifying your mind because of the power of this commitment to live a moral life. I mean, it's so enormous in this insane world. Lama Zopa says just to have one kind thought is incredible. So make your practice easy. Live in vows. It's just easy. It's like getting 1,000% return on your investment. You can relax, you know. I mean that literally. We have to think about it. It's like it's an uphill battle to just be a nice person. As Lama Zopa says, being nice is not enough. Being good is not enough. This is why he said the life we have got, the combination of the human rebirth and the conditions of this life and the reasonable sanity and reasonable money and reasonable conditions and the wish to practice the spiritual path and access to spiritual path. All of this combination of this marvellous, precious human rebirth we have, there is no way in the universe we got this as a result of just being a nice person. Being nice is not enough. It's too weak. The degenerate times are so intense. There's no power behind just being good. The life we have now, Rabbi said, not just as the result of working in practicing virtue in a spiritual path, but in the context of keeping vows. Again, you need to think about the logic of this. This is what sustains me as a nun. I'm happy to be a nun. Some reason, some imprint there, you know. Even as a little girl, I saw the priest. I thought, that's my job. I'll be one of them. They said I couldn't be a boy. I'm not a boy. I didn't get the point, you know. So obviously some karma. I'm most fortunate. Well, maybe you don't think fortunate. Whatever, I think fortunate. But I appreciate having the vows, you know. I appreciate. The logic the machine gives I find quite compelling. Because I know I'm lazy. So I'll get the advantage of practicing morality by keeping vows. They say, if you keep your pratimoksha vows, keep your refuge commitments, keep your bodhisattva vows, keep your tantric vows, keep your word of honour and your various commitments which we do when we take initiations, keep them purely, you can relax. You can enlighten in a few lives because the power of vows is so stupendous, so vast, so amazing. We need to think about it, don't just blindly believe it. This is why we must know our vows. If we don't know them, it's tragic. It's totally insulting the lamas who gave them to us. We need to know the vows. Clearly, exactly what we're committed to. Then we keep them purely. Then we know if we've broken them. If you don't know what your vow is, how do you know you've broken it? So yeah, these things. And so, okay, we were going to talk about Tantra, postgraduate, the end result. Oh, yes, darling. They're completely different. A vow or precept, they're used synonymously, is a strong determination you make to stop doing certain things. So the first level is called pratimoksha, or individual liberation, which is the first stages of practice, the base level where you control your body and speech, and they're mainly about body and speech. The second level of vows are the bodhisattva vows, where you commit to do certain things to help you benefit sentient beings. And this even gives you permission to break one of your earlier vows because it's for the sake of sentient beings, because the motivation is the key factor here. The first level is the key factor is behaviour. The second level, the key factor is motivation. And then you've got the tantric vows, the most advanced, the most at that level. So there's different levels of vows. They talk about the 3 sets of vows. Then the word empowerment or initiation is used exclusively in relation to these different practices in Tantra. So when you go to a certain lama and he's going to give a Chen-raising initiation, which we're going to talk about now, that's an initiation or an empowerment. That's the word that's used exclusively in Tantra and its relation to the deity, where you receive permission empowered by the lama to practice that. No, just a moment. Keep on track. That's the difference. So let's wait till we discuss Tantra, then if there's any questions, you can ask questions. Okay. Are you clear the difference? Now, vow and empowerment. Okay, just that. That's okay. Okay, so now, okay. So like I've been saying, all this packaging of the teachings put together by Atisha, when he got to Tibet, they kind of lost the plot a bit. It's been there for several hundred years, but there's amazing practices here and amazing practices there, but there's no sort of overall, and this is my way of saying it, coherent understanding where all the bits fit, you know? It was a bit like there was amazing music everywhere, but somebody gives you some Indian music and some trumpet music and some jazz, and you haven't got a clue where it all fits. And then someone very kindly writes a course for you and lays it all out step by step, how you can learn to be a musician, taking it on board according to your capacity. That's what Atisha did. And then, or Tsongkhapa especially, the 14th century Lama, our Lama, ran with that packaging, and he's called it the Lamrim, which is this medieval phrase for how we translate the word a course. A course. And we know that's the shape, the structure that we need to become familiar with to study something, and then how you become a musician, you become a dressmaker, you become a cook. We do courses. It's just how we learn. That's the Lamrim, as we've been talking. So the terms they use, these medieval phrases, the first scope, according to the scope of capability of that level. I prefer to use it junior school, and then middle scope, I call it high school. I just like that term because we can go, yeah, I get that point. We get the meaning of it, the inference of it, the meaning of it, it's inferring. Then we can go to university, which is, so you've got the wisdom wing and compassion wing, okay? Wisdom wing is junior school, high school. That's the Theravadan path. That's the Hinayana path. If you graduate there, you go into Nirvana. You can go further into the compassion wing, the Mahayana wing, the Bodhisattva wing, which is university. We now continue to practice by bringing bodhicitta into the mix. And then you've got postgraduate, which is still part of the Mahayana. You've got the perfection vehicle, part of the Mahayana, and then you've got the tantric teachings, Vajrayana, Mantrayana, Tantrayana, the more esoteric, more sophisticated, most advanced level of Lord Buddha's psychology, because all of Buddhism is psychology. If it's not psychology, it's a load of rubbish. It's about the mind. That's his expertise. So every single thing, like I said, in that lovely text of Tsongkhapa, short Lamrim text called called Songs of Experience, one of the translations. He says there, all the teachings are to be taken as sound advice, because there's no contradiction between scripture and practice. And where you put advice into practice is in your mind, isn't it? Hands and body do certain things, but the mind is the boss. So what practice is done by the mind. So it's all about changing the mind, as we've been talking. So all of practice is about the mind. If there's any practice, even a syllable in Buddha's teachings that is not correct, that won't help you do this, then you throw it out. It's not valid. And that's why His Holiness always says, of course, because Tibetans have developed certain ways of doing things and certain extra little rituals, doesn't mean they're not wrong. Doesn't mean they're wrong. The Japanese have. But he says if there's anything that you find not useful, that isn't crucial to the development of your mind, you don't do it. But if there is anything that is even called a ritual, which is, if you understand its purpose, then it has to be something you do to help you change your mind, then it's valid. Then it's valid. But to think that things are just rituals, one of the commonest criticisms people have of Tibetan Buddhism. Oh, it's just all these rituals. Why should I do all these rituals, you say? It's just superstition. Thinking it's ritual and nothing else is superstition. Ritual's not superstition. If you do it mindlessly, then you're just being superstitious. But if you analyze what a ritual is, it's a certain conventional behavior that groups of people have developed that they all understand. So you go to a Tibetan who's never been to the West, and you put your hand out to shake it. They will look at your hand, look at you, wait. They don't know what to do. They've never heard of the, quotes, ritual of shaking hands. So then they finally get to the point they put their hand out, and they kind of hold it all limp, And we think, what a creepy old handshake, because we think a handshake, you firmly handshake, They'd have never heard of a handshake. So so then that really shows you it's only a ritual, but look at the meaning. No ritual has no meaning. We're used to it. We know it means, hello, I'm happy to meet you. It's a really nice greeting, isn't it? But they've never heard of that. What they do instead is bonk heads. We've never heard of that one. A Tibetan comes down with his head, you think he's going to butt you. No, he's going to bonk you. Say hello. That's how they do it. They're just rituals. But look at the meaning behind them, which again is proving emptiness. So the mandala I did. You can say, oh, what a funny looking ritual. Chuck on rocks under this weird thing and chuck them all out and spill them everywhere. That wasn't meant to be the part of it. Meant to do it all nicely. I remember Lama Yeshe at one time was really big on his mandala. He would just make this massive mandala. It was really impeccable too. Great, big, magnificent mandala, Doesn't do these days. And I remember one time in India, one of our Dharma celebrations, these Enlightened Experience celebrations, the one we had in 82, Lama invited all of them in the West. And then there was one side, Lama's over in Australia, there was one side Lama Yeshe. And there's Lama Zopa with this immaculate, impeccable 4-story mandala, you know. And there's Lama Yeshe with this 1-story one, chucking on things all bent and crooked, you know. The difference, the way they made their mandalas was amazing. Anyway, as I said, it's a meaningful thing. We don't know what it is, but you're visualizing the entire universe. You've got this round thing. It's got little drawings on it that represent the different components of the universe according to Buddhist cosmology. You then put the first ring on, the east and the west continents. You're putting rocks or rice on. If you've got it down in your mind, you're visualizing what you're doing. And it's a wonderful way, because we've got these hands, you know. We've got a body. We've got hands. We've created negative karma with hands. Let's create positive karma with hands. During the teachings, you know, you'll see, His Holiness always said, even just have your hands creating. You create merit even with your hands. So you sit there while you're in the teachings and you have your hand in the prayer mudra. Even underneath, you don't have to show like this. Keep it quiet underneath. Have your hand in the prayer mudra. Virtue from this. So that's a prostration. So meaningful. We don't do this. We shake hands. They do this. It's got such meaning. It's a sign of respect. Without anything in the mind, there's nothing. It's nothing there. But when you have the mind, knowing what it is, you buy into that meaning, that makes it meaningful, ritual. Everything is ritual. I remember those lovely ads that HSBC would do. You've noticed them? They'd have different, like, they'd have one picture of shoes outside in the house, and it'd say, yes, the Asians take their shoes off, and it's called good manners. You take your shoes off at a posh party, that's very bad manners in the West. So where's the real taking your shoes off? It's not. So it was in one country, I forget, several examples. In one culture it's called good, in another culture it's called bad. That's emptiness, people. It just shows it's all ritual, but when you know the meaning, you act, when you're in Rome, you act like the Romans, you know. So all the things in Buddhism, especially what the Tibetans do, holding the bell, holding the dorji, putting it here, this way, all their gang signs, all the mudras, they all have meaning. You don't have to do them, but it's so meaningful if you know the meaning. And of course you can buy into it. You don't have to buy into it. But if you do with the heart, knowing the meaning, then it's wonderful to do it. Are you with me, people? You know, a prostration. When I was a Catholic, I genuflected. You have a single genuflection and a double genuflection, you know. Well, the Buddhas, the Buddha's a bit more dramatic. Well, the Tibetans, they kind of throw themselves on the ground full length, the long prostration. If you just think of some physical exercise, well, I know the very first practice Lama Yeshe gave me was prostrations, the 35 Buddhas, and to try to ease my pride, he said, it's good physical yoga, dear. Because I think you are like karate, and I believe me, it was good physical yoga. Not the point, of course. But it's so meaningful when you understand it. You're putting your whole body on the earth, prostrating on the ground. Just that alone, look at the humility of this. Who wants to do that, And then, of course, they teach you to do it in a certain way. Everything counts. You put your hands this way, your feet this way, you do it this way, that way. It's a great practice, prostration. Because you don't want to go on the ground. It's totally boring. It's too exhausting. Up and down 35 times, not to mention more. Mandalas, water bowls. It's an amazing practice, water bowls. It's come from an Indian tradition of putting, there's this particular set of offerings in Tantra. They call it the 8 sense offerings. And just become like anything. Anything develops this way. It's depending on right there. It becomes a little thing you do. It becomes a ritual. And everything we do. Playing tennis, you have to learn all the rules. You learn it somehow, and you do it. It's like ritual and has meaning. We get all excited. The footy. I was just watching the Sydney Swans thrash Collingwood. What do you mean what? What do you mean what? Am I supposed to watch football in my lunch break? I'm supposed to sit there watching my breath or something? Oh, we were? Okay, good, yes. So the Swannies smashed Collingwood, 102 to 55, at the MCG, the first time in 10 years. I know, it was very nice to watch it. It was great to watch it. So I was watching it. Yeah, no, yeah. Are you a Collingwood barracker? Oh, you are? Well, I mean, in my family, we were all South Melbourne. Totally fanatic South Melbourne. Our great uncle was the captain in the 1936 grand final, that kind of thing. And then I remember the first game we went to when I was little was Collingwood, and they beat us by 2 points. So I thought I would be on the winner's side. So I thought I'd barrack for Collingwood. It only lasted about a week, You just couldn't. But in the end, I couldn't stand the stress of football. It was too intense. I could not stand the stress. How my sisters do it, I don't know. One of my sisters in Sydney is a total fanatic. She won the competition among the Sydney Swans fans of being the most fanatic Swan fan. You know, Julie, my sister, is a graphic designer, set this little thing with all the pictures. She goes to every, I mean, I swear to you. And she's a really reasonable, sane human being. She ran an art gallery for years and she's retired. She's a very civilised, nice, easygoing person. But when it comes to football, you don't even know it's the same person. She becomes evil, you know. Completely like a maniac. I'm amazed she hasn't killed herself from stress. One time when we lost the 96, there was a grand final in 96. She lives in Sydney. And she's driving back up from Melbourne. And she said the grief was so intense she had to stop for 2 days and stay in a hotel to cry. And so she really feels that it's all the emotion of all her life, all packed into football, you know. Everything is channeled into her football, her love for the Sydney Swans. And the fact is, it proves emptiness. The whole team could all disappear tomorrow, and they're a brand new bunch of guys with the same thing and still the same team. It's clearly not true, you know. Yeah. To others every time, that's right. There you go. Anyway, where was I there? Rituals. Okay, you see my point. Rituals. So if there's a ritual in Tibetan, don't just feel cynical and jealous because you can't do it and then say, oh, these stupid rituals. Check it up first. See the meaning. See if it has sense. Because if there is anything that they do that doesn't have meaning, you're right. It's merely a ritual. Don't do it. Don't do it. So true. So, okay, all the things we do, and all those things are from Tantra anyway. So, okay, the most advanced level of teachings. Now, the point, when you go to school and you're in junior school and the topic is maths, you know that all the way through to postgraduate maths, the topic's the same, isn't it? It's maths. But it keeps getting more complicated. And all the purpose of all the maths that you're going through leads you to the next step. And you do second grade and they've graduated. They've done all the courses beautifully to get you to third grade. They've organised all the materials so beautifully. That's why we're geniuses in the West. We know how to study things. Do you understand? Very fascinating. The topic is maths, and it's all leading you to graduate as a mathematician. Same here. The purpose of every single thing from junior school all the way through to postgraduate is to help you become a Buddha. Everything is guiding you to this. Everything is leading you in this direction. When you're little, you might notice it why you're studying this because you want to get to there, you know. But if you trust the person, trust the system, see it's coherent, trust the teachers, blah, 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 which you have to check up on, you go through the stages, you know, and each one will lead to the next. And each piece, the new piece of the puzzle fills in, you know. So the purpose of Tantra is exactly the same as everything else, is to help you get your mind to become a Buddha mind. So because it's postgraduate, obviously it's the most advanced. And we know perfectly well you can't possibly go to, you know, university if you haven't been to, you can't go to university if you haven't been to high school. You can't jump to high school if you haven't been to junior school. And you cannot go to postgraduate if you haven't been to university. It's logical. That's the meaning of these structures. So you can't leap into getting realizations at the level of Tantra without having done all the rest of it. It's just logical. It's obvious, you know. It's just obvious. Obvious. And the fact is, you can't possibly begin to even comprehend intellectually Tantra until you understand bodhicitta. You just can't. And you can't possibly understand how Tantra can work, and you can't understand emptiness. And you can't possibly be prepared to practice it if you haven't got renunciation. So one way of presenting 3 prerequisites, as Tsongkhapa would refer to it, for being ready to even take an initiation, is to have these some renunciation, some bodhicitta, or appreciation at least of renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. The 3 principal aspects of the path. It's another way of presenting the Lam Rim. That's, so, you know, in the Kargyupas and Nyingmapas and maybe even the Sakyapas, they have a different approach. You do your preliminary practice, all your nundros, you do 100,000 this, 100,000 that, and then you're ready to take initiation. But the Gelugpas are different. They say you practice the Lam Rim, you practice the 3 principal paths, then your mind is ready to take initiation. Which means you've taken refuge, you've taken lay vows, and even taken bodhisattva vows. You've gone step by step, step by step. So how do you talk about Tantra? How is it different? There's many ways it's different. And it's just this marvellous approach, you know. And without any sense of emptiness, it's just nonsense. So let's use, as our reference point, in order to understand the different levels of practice, let's use attachment. Okay? At the first level of practice, given that attachment is running the show and making us run rampant and harm sentient beings and do dreadful things to harm ourselves, right, we need to back away from the object, don't we? It's obvious if you stuff the cake in every day, attachment's the problem. It's obvious the cake is so powerful for you, you haven't got control. We know that one, don't we? So we know it's reasonable to back away. The alcohol's the best. No, well, cake's a good example. Just a good, nice example here. So you mightn't stop eating cake altogether, but you might need to if it makes you berserk. We understand this. And if we've got any common sense, we'll know where we're at, we'll be humble, and we will protect ourselves from these external objects that trigger our attachment and make us berserk. You understand? So the first level of practice is to back off and leave the object alone. Best. You harness your external energy, your behavior in relation to the cake. Then you're practicing virtue prostrating, doing your practice, practicing purifying, abiding by the laws of karma, practicing, purifying your karma, and you move into the second scope to high school. You start to meditate, you start to go into your mind, you learn Buddhist psychology, you start to look at the delusions, at the cause of the problem, you start to look into attachment itself, which is what causes your hand to rush off and stuff the cake in the mouth. You get to understand, you get to the core of the problem, attachment itself. And you're so marvellous at this point. You learn to be your own therapist so deeply. And now you've got such a harness on it. You really understand attachment. And this is already such sophisticated practice, I tell you. Your body's subdued, and now even your mind is subdued. Attachment's still there. You haven't removed it. You still don't realize emptiness. And it won't go until you realize emptiness. But you're really on the case here. You could sort of say, you could even have a bit of cake now without your mind going berserk. As long as you see. But you're still cautious. You're so cautious. Because attachment is still massive in there, even though you understand it deeply. You go step by step in your practice. You understand? Now you move to university, and you've practiced so intensely, you've got such renunciation. You really understand, as Lama Zopa says, you have renunciation. When just the thought of another moment of attachment is so disgusting, it's like using used toilet paper. Just the thought of another moment of attachment. Just the thought of another moment of attachment. And here we are running rampant, following it every day. Just the thought of another moment of attachment is so disgusting. Another example, it's like being in a septic tank. If that other one doesn't work, that might work. You get the point, okay? So this is already a stupendous level of practice. You're an amazing being. Now this means that you're already very loving, very blissful, very content, very wise, very satisfied, very kind, very generous, because you've really subdued your body, speech, and mind. You haven't realized emptiness yet, but you're a pretty incredible person. You really harness the energy of attachment. You with me so far? Now, like I said, you can begin to even have the cake, and you're not going to be totally thrown by it, because you're really in control. But still very cautious. You move forward, you start getting realizations, you get to the compassion wing, and now slowly compassion becomes a thing. Empathy with others, you exchange yourself for others, all this amazing. Others become more important. Immense empathy for others is so huge in your mind. This overrides your attachment. By now, you could happily eat cake for the sake of others. Your attachment's bigger than, your compassion's bigger than attachment. You kind of with me? You can understand the psychological progression. Can you hear it? Maritza says, come out for a cup of tea. I don't want a cup of tea, but I've got a bodhisattva vow. But you don't say no, she's a sentient being. Make an opportunity to create merit, or other way around, you know? No, me. So then she invites me out. I don't particularly like or not like cake. But Maritza offers me a cake. Thank you, this is wonderful. How kind you are, Maritza. And I enjoy the cake like crazy. My main reason is compassion. We can imagine this, can't we? Can we imagine this? You're doing it genuinely for the sake of another. That's even more amazing. Now you can happily eat the cake, and it will not make you berserk, because your compassion is bigger than your attachment. You could say it like that. You with me? You with me? You keep moving, realizing emptiness, becoming an Arya Bodhisattva. You're incredible now. And now you can leap into Tantra, where you can actually not just eat the cake, but you're so skillful, so sophisticated, so knowledgeable about your mind, knowing exactly what attachment is, what all the bits and pieces of your mind are, what pleasure is, where it comes from, the virtue, the karma, all the nuts and bolts, like you're a brilliant inner surgeon. You know everything about what's happening. So now you are able, through single point of concentration, to, forget the single point of concentration. We're talking cake as an example, okay? You can happily eat the cake, and you are eager to eat the cake because you want to trigger the bliss Remember the pleasure that's triggered by the cake? You are so together now. You've got such compassion, such wisdom, such emptiness, such renunciation, that there's no longer the slightest danger for you. And you actually engage in the action, the object of attachment. But there's no attachment. But because you've still got a physical body, the nature, all the mechanics will work, and the pleasure will be triggered by the contact with the cake. And you are able to energize that. You are able to utilize that pleasure, that bliss. Just the general statement is that. So this is an analogy for the level of Tantra. So basically at Tantra, because you've got renunciation, because you've got bodhicitta, because you have emptiness, we're talking about an ideal candidate. We're just all faking it till we make it. You are able to use single point of concentration. You are able to see the deity out there. Then you're able to literally become the deity, experience complete bliss, and with your combination of that bliss, which normally would make us completely berserk. Look, even when you're thirsty, water can make you berserk. Water, because we have attachment. Are you with me? But now, because you've gone beyond attachment, you're no longer in the thrall of all these ridiculous samsara. You understand the way things are. You have renunciation. You have emptiness. You have bodhicitta. And the only reason you want to practice Tantra because you're desperate to become a Buddha, because the suffering of the sentient beings is unbearable to you. So you're able to you play dangerously now. You're able to energize all the delusions, actually, because all the delusions are grist for the mill. But because you no longer see them as self-existent, you're able to, because we have a human body, you're able, there can be attachment in the mind. Okay, there can be, no, not attachment. They say in Tantra that you utilize the attachment. No, as Courtin said, you utilize the bliss, the pleasure that is energized by a contact with an attachment object. As Lama Yeshe says, Tantra is highly technical. So why do you want to energize bliss? That's the question. It's a technical reason, a technical one. Because of the way the human being is constructed, and this is how they talk in Tantra, which is the Tibetan medical system too, of the subtle physical energies, and when all the winds and all the mind go into the central channel, which is what it does with the yogis, forget about the sutra teaching, the sutra technique of meditation, even, what's his name, Renee, my friend, going to the 5th of the 9 stages of single point of concentration, which is a sutra practice, coming from the Hindus, the bliss that he experienced, even at the 5th of the 9 stages, was superior to any bliss for his senses. So the tantric system uses this totally when you're a qualified being. So you want to energize bliss. Why? For a practical reason. Because when the mind is subtle, bliss, contact with a sense object, energizes the mind and causes it, when it's combined with concentration, to go. The bliss is like a rocket that gets the mind to a very subtle level very quickly. It's a mechanical thing. And that very subtle level is where you have to go, because that is where you can realize emptiness and get all the realizations and become a Buddha. It's like you've got to access the subtlest level of your mind. And the only thing that does that is this powerful bliss. So the tantric yogis use the practical aspects of this physical energy we have, know it deeply and well, are very sophisticated in the physical and the mental, are able to energize all this, utilize all the components of their being, get the mind to a very subtle level, and then with that very subtle level realize emptiness very quickly and get all the realizations and even become a Buddha. Are you understanding just technically what I'm saying? It's enough, if you can. It's sophisticated technology, basically. But it so throws us because it looks like, fancy and gorgeous and blissful, and wow, we hear those words, get all excited, But it's highly technical, as Lama Yeshe says. So, another way of talking, as we can see, is, as we did a few practices of Chara, Chenrezig, Vajrasattva, that's all taken from Tantra. Again, getting clear about what the Buddha is. Buddha is the name given to the enlightened mind. No body, no need, just pure enlightened mind, all-pervading, all-knowing, all-conscious, all-powerful, all-loving. That's not much use to sentient beings because we can't communicate with it. So out of compassion, that manifests in form, in bodies that we can see and hear. And there's two kinds of bodies the Buddha mind manifests in to help sentient beings. One is a regular body, like the body of Shakyamuni that we can see. And then there's a body that's a subtle light body that only great meditators in their meditation can see. And that's this depicted by these pictures. And this is just psychology. She represents long life. She represents long life too. Two white taras. She represents, like we did this morning, power. Every one of them is simply Indian style, a visual depiction of certain psychological qualities. So that's a simple way, another way of talking about the tantric practices, by visualizing Tara out there, like we did this morning, or Chenrezig the day before, simple way we did the visualization. Just by thinking that's the Buddha out there, oneness with my Lama, and then imagining like out there, then Purify, then comes inside you, then you become Buddha, and then you benefit everybody else. You're just replicating the entire enlightened path, but visually, and you're leaving those seeds in your mind. So the way they talk about, another way of talking about it, is, Lama Yeshe taught this a lot to us in the very beginning, in the West. He could see we were so full of self-pity and pathetic, So he really got us to talk about the whole attitude in Tantra of what they call divine pride. One of the approaches here, so again using the different stages of teachings. At the first level, you're playing safe, you're backing off, you're being controlled, you don't lie, you don't kill, you don't stuff yourself, you be controlled. You're practicing good morality because you're trying to harness the energy of your senses. Now you get to the mind and you harness your mind. Now you get to practice compassion, and already you're becoming pretty crazy and pretty brave. And even in the Mahayana path, the Bodhisattva teaching, before you get to Tantra, you can already, your mind is so subdued, you can already do what looks like bad things because it's truly motivated by bodhicitta. It might look so cool. Like the story I told about the Buddha, remember the captain? That one. So already you're pretty outrageous at the bodhisattva level. You're pretty incredible. By Tantra, it's really the most sophisticated level of practice. And so one of the approaches here is, one of the ways they say, according to Tantric philosophy, of why we suffer, they say all the teachings, is all about we suffer because of ego grasping, because of ignorance, because of clinging to the self. But the way they say, because of this, they say in Tantra that we're very mundane, we're very gross, we're kind of grovelling around in a pigsty thinking it's happiness, And we see everything very dualistically. We're very miserable and hopeless and grasping, pathetic, poor me. Low self-esteem. We really don't have a very big view of ourselves at all, and no sense of potential. So in Tantra, they say we're bringing the end result into the present. So it's like it's the ultimate of positive thinking. When you all this positive thinking that sports people do, you visualize yourself winning Wimbledon or winning the Melbourne Open or something. You visualize it. You imagine yourself playing all the things. You imagine winning. You imagine receiving the thing. That is what Tantra is. You're visualizing yourself as you will be when you're a Buddha, and the doing of that is a cause to become it. Are you understanding? So they say it's bringing the end result into the present. So one of the ordinary ways of applying this in daily life, which is what Lama Yeshe would talk a lot to us about, he'd bring the philosophy of Tantra, which indeed is quite technical and sophisticated, into really simple, ordinary terms to try and apply in daily life. And it's all about lifting your view of yourself. Like we're all miserable. We all blurt out our mouth, I'm hopeless, I'm no good, I can't do anything, I'm this, I'm that. We go blur. How are you? Oh, I'm really hopeless, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm jealous. We just blur it all out. And it reinforces this low view we have of ourselves, which remember we exaggerate the badness. So what we're trying to do in Tantra is imagine I'm Tara. Imagine I'm Chenrezig. Imagine I'm Vajrayogini. Imagine I'm Chakrasambhara, whoever it might be that we're practicing. You buy into the fact that he represents this, represents that, and you're trying to become that by thinking I am that. So then even when you do Tantra, you have a commitment to see yourself as the Buddha, to see others as the Buddha, to see all the external world as the pure land, blissful and radiant of the Buddha. Every time you hear about ugly people, you think that's a wrathful Buddha. It's just a way you lift your view of way of interpreting the world. You're lifting your game. You're seeing things as transcendental. So every time we thought of a lunch, we'd bless it with the energy of Om Ahum. And then we'd say it's delicious transcendental nectar. We imagine that instead of yucky bread and beans and this, This is one aspect of Tantra as well. A way of seeing things as not mundane, as sublime. And seeing it that way is a cause for becoming that. This is the point. Does this make sense psychologically? Okay. So they talk about divine pride. And so, even if we think of ourselves, You know, you don't, you know, when you're miserable, you're hopeless, and your house is a mess, and you're a mess, and your clothes are a mess, and you don't take care of your body. Of course you're miserable. You're going to be miserable. Everywhere you look, it's yucky and messy. It's an expression of your misery, isn't it? But then when you start even, you know, putting yourself together and looking at yourself nice and make your house clean, it can be fanatic and neurotic. But if you do it properly, it's a sign that you're lifting your view. When people say to you, how are you? You don't go, oh, I'm really pathetic, I'm hopeless, I'm tired, I'm jealous, I'm this. You say, I'm very well, thank you. How are you? You understand what I'm saying? You present yourself nicely to others. I'll never forget when I heard Grace Kelly say, of course I have to look beautiful. People have to look at me. That's from Tantra. You respect others. Now, you can see the difference. This is not, you see, in the beginning, we are trying to give up attachment to all that junk because we do it now for the wrong reasons. We make our house beautiful because we want people to think I'm nice. We look nice, we want people to love us. Are you with me? So of course, when you get renunciation, you don't care, and it's great. You look like an old dag, you look like an old, you know, military person. You don't care, you smell. It's wonderful. It's good. It's great. That's the first stage of practice. You understand? Nothing wrong. But now we get to Bodhisattva, we're trying to help others now. That means my presence has to inspire people. I have to be good for them. And then Tantra is even more, I've got to make them blissful. Are you with me? The psychology is marvellous, you know. And we can see what it does to you. As soon as we go to a really fancy restaurant, immediately people treat you nicely. Please, ma'am, come and sit down. Already you feel good, don't you? Because someone's treating you with such respect. It's got such magic to it. But to hear the purpose of it behind, with bodhicitta behind, you know. Do you understand? And that's coming from Tantra. And this is the one that Lama could see we're so miserable and hopeless. Lift ourselves. He'd always make us have parties and celebrations to try and lift us a little bit, you know. Have a happy mind. In other words, Tantra is about practicing constantly having a happy mind and presenting yourself beautifully to others. So, of course, it's all coming on the back of giving up attachment, controlling your body and speech, having bodhicitta has got real powerful, you know, meaning to it all. Are you with me, people? There's a multitude of ways of talking about Tantra, okay? So any questions about that? Okay. So mantra is just a sound manifestation of the same energy. And because, you know, and so, yeah, that's all. So by saying mantra, you know, by thinking things, you change your mind, and then by working with your speech and working with your body. So these practices that include all, very integrated. You purify with your body, speech, and mind. Fantastic. Because we create karma with our body, speech, and mind. So why not use our body, speech, and mind to purify? Nothing more to say about that. Gentle truth. Any questions, people? Any questions? No questions? So as far as whether you're ready or not, we always wonder about that, you know. Am I ready to take refuge? Am I ready to take 5 lay vows? Am I ready to take bodhisattva vows? Am I ready to take initiation? So you could say you are ready to take refuge when you really have a sort of, I put it this way, loosey-goosey, a really comfortable feeling with the idea of the Buddha, historical Buddha, and his teachings, that he's not a creator, and the view of karma. Not an insight into it all, no way, but comfortable about that. If you're really convinced there's a creator somewhere and it's not karma, well, you're not a Buddhist, don't take refuge. You can like Buddhism, take what you need from it. But if it's your lineage, it would be you have a very comfortable place about the Buddha not being a creator. That's my way of saying. Technically, you're qualified when you really have... when you really are sick of suffering, and you know you want methods to stop the suffering, like you're sick of you don't want cancer, so you know you need a decent doctor. You don't want cancer, you need a doctor, you check on the doctor, that's being ready for refuge. You're sick of the suffering, you've checked on the Buddha, you've read him, you've thought about him, you've heard the teachings, you've listened to teachings, and you've got some comfort zone with the logic of it, and you're content with that. And you're prepared to have confidence in it. And you need the methods because you're sick of suffering. That's the prerequisite of being ready to take refuge formally. Yeah, you with me? Then, with various commitments when you do that, you vow to take refuge morning and night, just to continue to practice loving sentient beings, to make a practice every day, to offer your food to the Buddha before you stuff it in the mouth, at the very least, the 3 jewels. Things like this, you know. And then when you're ready, or you can do it at the same time, you take these 5 lay vows, or any one of those. no killing, lying, no stealing, no lying, no sexual misconduct, no alcohol and drugs. The common one people often don't take is the alcohol and drugs, that's okay. But I remember in Russia, years ago, 10 years ago when I was there, I did refuge. Because they all don't pay taxes, therefore they all lie about their income, they're stealing and lying. And they will have these serious discussions about whether they should take the vow. And normally in the rest of the countries, people all take lying and stealing, no problem. So when you do it, you're kneeling on your knee and you're repeating after the person who says, you know, I will murder. And then during lying and stealing, there was complete silence. It was very funny. This last year, they were different. 10 years ago, they were so sincere. Not a word. So then, you know, when you're prepared to appreciate the value of vows, and it's really serious next level of commitment, you would commit to the 5 lay vows, or any or all. Then the next one you'd go, you know, then often what happens is, the tradition is you'd then be ready to think, maybe take the bodhisattva vows. You might take the wishing bodhisattvas to make a wish, if I could do them, and then eventually you actually take the bodhisattva vows in a certain ceremony. But so often what happens these days, because Tantra is so much more available, the initiations are so much more common, the lamas everywhere, His Holiness travels all over the world giving things. Even in the 70s it was hard to find anybody who could give initiation. So you take the bodhisattva vows first, then you wait a bit longer, and then you take initiation. But often it comes together. Because if you take, okay, now initiation, as I said, empowerment, that's a term they use exclusively in relation to going to a place where there's a lama who's giving an empowerment into a certain one of these deity practices. So there's 4 levels of those. There's what they call Kriya Tantra, or action, and all the common practices like the ones that are popular, like Tara, Chen raising, well, we've been doing here. Okay, you've got no initiation, some of you, but we've been doing them. So it's okay to do some if you haven't received initiation. Then there seems to be 2 more levels, and I don't seem to see any practices coming from this 2. I don't know why. We have some in the first group, and the 4th one is called Highest Yoga Tantra. And these ones you can't do without permission. You can't do. So you have to have initiation first. So Vajrasattva even we've been doing, with single Vajrasattva. When you take the initiation, you do it with him in this consort, you know. And this just represents bliss and wisdom combined. That's all the consort represents, you know, the 2 together. All that kind of imagery is used. So when you do, you know, for example, His Holiness goes around the world these last 25, 30 years giving Kala Chakra. Everyone's heard of this. This is actually in the class called Highest Yoga Tantra. And normally, only people who are there in the room who are taking the initiation, only those who are taking the initiation can be there. But for some reason, over the years, His Holiness has made it public. So there's this common thing, 25,000 people, 5,000 people, 10,000 people turn up. Many, of course, will take the initiation, as they say, which means you'll commit to do all the things, you'll, you know, all the different practices you're supposed to do afterwards, and whatever the Lama says, I want you to do. It's like you write it, you have a contract. If I'll give you this initiation, you do this and this, and you agree, he'll give it to you. And you kind of shake on it, you know, like that. So you have this word of honour, they talk about. You will commit to doing certain things every day if you take certain initiations. That's why when we've taken them, we need to know exactly what the Lama has expected of us. And we keep it with such respect. So, when you do the first level, like Tara, Chen raising, Medicine Buddha, and many, many others, then you automatically would take the Bodhisattva vows. But what's unfortunate, I mean, I think it's unfortunate, but this is what it is in Tibet so commonly. You go to a big monastery, there are 1,000 people there. Oh, I hear he's giving a wong, they'll say, which is an empowerment. It's a word. Oh, I'd like to do that. So I'll go there, and you haven't got a clue who it is, you haven't got a clue what they're doing, you haven't got a clue what commitments you've got, you don't even know if you've received it, you're completely confused. So with Tibetans who've got a lot of faith, that kind of works, you know, and I've got other ones as well. But for us who haven't got a clue what we're doing, it's quite dangerous. It's degenerate to do this. You've got to know exactly who the Lama is, you've got to check on that Lama, because he's going to become one of your gurus. He will be one of your gurus, which means you must practice seeing him as the Buddha, no question. So you better be confident he's a valid person. You better know exactly who the deity is. You better know exactly what his commitments are, what the prerequisites are. And it's just very easy going the way the Tibetans do it, you know. And it's kind of unfortunate to come down to the West like that. We've got to know exactly. And all I can say is I found it really tragic over the years, going around the centres, people who've taken Kala Chakra, taken this, they don't have any clue what their commitments are. And I have to say among the Karjupas and the Nimapas, it's worse. They don't even know they've taken vows. And please, I'm not being sectarian. They don't even know they've taken vows. But they've taken tantric vows. They've taken bodhisattva vows. That means they've got lay vows. But all these stages, so we need to know what these things are. So I remember I was in Boston at our centre there, and some of the people had taken Kala Chakra from His Holiness and wanted to have a bit of commentary on the 6th session Guru Yoga, which in the Kaluppas is a crucial practice when you've taken highest yoga tantra you're committed to do every day, morning and night. Well, they wanted a little bit of a commentary, so we talked about. And then all the people who were there who'd been practicing for 30 years, and I started to talk about the different, the different commitments we have, they were shocked. Oh, I'm supposed to do 12 twice a month? I didn't know that. You mean I'm supposed to do this once a day? I didn't know that. We don't know. And so I thought, this is shocking, and I'm not lazy with it too. So it forced me to look into every single commitment, every single vow, and get a document together of commentary from Berzin and from other people. He's very reliable, Alex Berzin, on his website. He's amazing. Commentary on the Bodhisattva vows, commentary on the Tantric vows, commentary from other lamas on the Bodhisattva vows, the 6th session Guru Yoga, the Samaya Vajra for breaking, the dog twice a month, all these different things. Put them all in a document, and a list. Do this, do this, do this, do that. And it's really helpful for the mind to know what you're committed to. Because all commitments and vows are, like I said, it's very practical. Well, you just email me, I'll send you all the documents. I've got them all in a folder. 12 documents. Would you like them? No, you cannot. Not what I'm talking about. You won't know how to find it. I put them all together in a folder. All the commitments and all the vows and all the things in relation to refuge, lay vows, bodhisattva vows, tantric vows, commitments, song, this, that, this 6th session Guru Yoga, the 19 commitments in relation to the 5 Buddha families, there's something carrying Dorji Bell, carrying this, there's something, blur, blur, blur. So if you want it, you just email me and I'll send it to you. Whoever wants. Because we don't know half the time. We're confused. We mean well. We don't know. And all these instructions are, we don't think of when someone tells you how to drive a car. If they wrote it all down, you'd have a list of 100 don'ts, wouldn't you? Don't do this, and don't look at a mobile phone, and don't turn this way, and don't put your leg that way, and don't turn the wheel this way, and don't get too close to a car. Do you understand? When you go for a driving test, there's so many things you've got to pass. Well, that's called vows and commitments. It's just a way to learn how to drive, because you do the bullet points. That's all it is. My mother, when she taught me how to play piano, even when she was in the kitchen, and I lift your elbow, she'd say. She could tell how I was playing. I shouldn't have my elbow down. We don't think of it as a vow, like, don't you tell me what to do. We're so grateful. You understand? That's all this stuff is. It's bullet points, instructions. And of course, when you've internalized them, you know them naturally. And of course, you help them because they're protection for your life. They guide you, help to be the person you want to become. Initially, of course, it's a bit overwhelming, but everything is when you first start to learn it. So anyway, Tantra. I was talking about that. Yeah, so the initiations are the way you receive the empowerment from the Lama. It's at least minimum thing is permission to practice, the permission to practice. And these are highly complex and they're extremely esoteric and extremely hard to understand. But they're all there to be understood if we study it all. This is where faith really does come in. As Lama Zopa says, don't think you're going to get realization in this life. But you need the imprints of all this stuff. So with complete confidence in, let's say, the Dalai Lama, if you've checked up, you haven't got a clue. Kala Chakra is so complicated. I don't even know what he represents. I'm just completely confused, But because I trust the Dalai Lama, checked up on him, he's valid, he's the Buddha for me, and because I know I need all those imprints in my mind, I'm prepared to go there and sit there and try and just receive the blessings. This is how they talk. That is completely fine when you have confidence, you know what you're doing. Do you understand? Because you've got the imprints there and they will grow the seeds and then next life we'll have a bit more clarity about it. It'll grow, because everything multiplies. Good and bad seeds multiply and in the next life they multiply hugely more. So you can just have vague attachment in this life to animals. Next life you'll be a furry. You understand what I'm saying? Because the attachment multiplies massively and it becomes like sexual attachment, obsessive about animals. It massively multiplies life to life. Virtue as well. So be humble and patient about sowing seeds. If you really feel you like Buddhism, but in this life you feel you're not going to study too deeply, that's okay. Read the books, hear the stuff, listen to it, do a few mantras, and know that you're sowing seeds and you want to do it next life. May I be able to study next life? That's okay. No worries. Do that. That's fantastic. But if you can do more, do more, You with me? Yes, sweetheart. Robina Courtin, one word. As Americans call me Robina. In Australia, I'm Robina Courtin at mac.com, the computer, Mac. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, pleasure. Yes, Rita?
I thought you told this woman yesterday that whatever virtue she had, it wasn't going into.
Oh, never, ever, 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 ever have said something so shocking. How could that be? You mean you be good in this life and then it all goes with you? What do you start with next life?
No.
What?
I thought you said it does not go with you.
To where?
To your next.
Okay, I'm just saying, can you, excuse me.
Yes.
Did you know about goodness and badness when you were a little girl? Did you know a little bit about not lying and not stealing? Were you trying to be a good girl when you were a little girl? Jane?
I was taught those things.
Did you, no, excuse me. Okay, you were taught them, good. If you didn't have the imprint to be good, how the hell could your mother's instruction help you? And where did the imprint come from? You've got to think this through, because if you heard that, that's bizarre. Listen carefully. Where the hell do you think the virtue came from if it didn't come from your mind from the past? You're saying your mother gave it to you.
To you.
No, excuse me, you're not listening.
Okay.
Can you accept that you could be tone deaf?
Yes.
Okay, and could you accept that your mummy might be a brilliant musician?
Yes.
Now, if she tried to teach you piano, it wouldn't help, would it?
No.
Because you don't have an imprint for music, do you?
No.
Okay. Where do you think any imprint for goodness came from in your mind if it didn't come from past life? Where the hell? Means you haven't heard the teachings about karma at all. Where do you think it came from, Jane? Where, I'm asking you, where do you think then? Where do you think it would come from if it didn't come from your past life? Where? Why be so good in this life if you don't carry it through? That is completely insane. Why would you do that? Jane, don't be... You are, indeed you are. Yes, you are. And I didn't say no, even. So you heard that wrong as well. Jane, believe me, dear, I did not say that. But Jane, listen. So when even that you thought it was possible, you should say to yourself, well, how can that be true?
That's what I was saying.
I know, but I'm saying before you even ask the question, you should say it to yourself.
I did.
Well, then,
that's why I'm asking the question now.
no, but no, what I am saying is you'd have to conclude by using logic that what you heard was wrong. If you'd used your own wisdom, you would know that. If you leapt in too quick to ask the question. What I'm saying is the wisdom is in you. If you be logical, and this is for all of us. Jane, listen to me. I beg you, listen. I really mean it. I beg you, listen. We've got the ability based upon, listen, you've heard that 1 and 1 is 2, haven't you? And when you've learned that, and then you see 3 and 4 is, what is 3 and 4? Listen carefully. You can't see the answer, can you? But you know because you've learned the basics of maths, you could work it out yourself, couldn't you? Same here. You've heard about karma the whole time. You've heard about how we have to put the imprints in the mind. You've heard about how once you've practiced the first stages, that you be virtuous and the next life you can get a good rebirth. You've heard that, haven't you? So then if you know that, this is debate now, you know that, then you have to say to yourself, well, it follows what I heard was completely wrong. No, Jane, no, you're missing my points. Jane, then you wouldn't have asked the question. You would have said, I was definitely wrong. If it's true what I heard before that carries forward, then what I heard was wrong. And you would have been confident and you wouldn't have needed to ask the question. I'm trying to get you to see how we all have to use wisdom based on what we do know to come to our own conclusions. That's what I'm saying here. And we have to do that. That's how we get to the conclusions ourselves, by using logic. Jane, I don't need to discuss it anymore. You're missing my point. That's what you should do. Okay. Well then, okay, I will debate with you again. Why didn't you do what I said then? Why didn't you use all the things? Jane, don't be so eager to be right. And I know I'm being very eager to be right here to help you use Prasangika logic. Jane, so what? Stop. Why didn't you then think, okay, I've heard about karma. What's karma? Karma says everything you do leaves an imprint in the mind. The mind is beginningless. And then you've heard that the cause of a good rebirth is virtue. Now, even there, if the virtue didn't continue, how could you get a good rebirth? Answer the question. Have you heard that virtuous karmic imprintable, James? So then why didn't you use that logic, which you are confident about, to say therefore it couldn't be right what I heard? That's what I'm saying to you. You didn't use your own wisdom. You just leapt in and asked the question. So you have to have more faith in your own wisdom and think it through. And you would know logically it would be impossible to say your virtue doesn't go through. It would be impossible, would it not? Can you hear my point? Good. So stop there. Stop. Don't say a word. Except that you jumped in too quickly to ask a question. And you know really what you did do was didn't trust your own, what you did know. You didn't trust enough what you did know to tell yourself that that couldn't be true what I heard. You didn't trust your own wisdom enough. Can you hear my point?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
All of us. All of us the same. No. You can make it to someone else, but not to me. And I'm really talking to all of us here, because one of our things about religion is this. We think every time you have a dilemma, you have to ask somebody what the answer is. But like I said with maths, once you've learned the fundamentals, you can find your own answers, can't you? You've got the principles clear. And that's why if Buddhism is valid, it has to be coherent, which means you can nut it out yourself. Because you can see, some of you haven't asked any questions in this course, have you? Not one. But you can see how all the answers come, don't they? Right, exactly. That's it. They're all there. All I'm doing is giving the information, and then you put it all together, and you can come up with your own answer. And that's fine. We have to be our own guru. You know? We have to be our own Buddha. We have to be our own therapist. When you get the learning, then you go off into the mountains for 25 years on your own, because you've got all the stuff in there, and that's what you work with to get the realization. And that's why we have to study. Yeah. It's only 2:45. Nothing more to say. We're completely cooked. We're completely done. Yes, darling.
That shaking hands thing,
Yes.
the reason that originated was to say, look, I haven't got a weapon.
I know. Yes, exactly.
You know?
I know that.
It was when we smile to get a course, Tibetans don't get it. You know? And then the other says, no, I haven't got a weapon. I don't know. You know, and the whole idea of, you know, this is the safe situation, creating a safe situation.
I understand. Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
So
Thank you.
it's when we smile to Tibetans, it's so sweet connection.
Well then. They're hiding their weapon. She's married to a compass. She knows. She's married to one. They're not all so peaceful. They're not.
Give you the left hand.
She's married to one of them. Anyway, there you go. So I've got a feeling we really are finished. It's only 2:45, but so what? We're done. Anyway, given that I speak 3 times the pace of everybody else, we've actually done 27 days of teachings. We're now day 27. No, really, I always joke about this, but one of my, Miffy up in Queensland, in Brisbane, Lungri Tantra Centre, she invited one time when I was at Chen Raising in the 80s, she invited 3 of us, 3 nuns to come down on the Tuesday and give an hour and a half teachings, and we did. Then they transcribed them. The other 2 nuns were 8 pages and mine were 24. So you've had 27 days of teachings, okay? We better go get Cherry. Good on you, I thought so. That's right. Yeah, take a toilet break in. We're going to have a picture, but everybody's gone. What a pity. We've missed everybody. We're going to have a nice picture. So you have gone to the toilet and then come back and do a few prayers to finish, or whatever you need to do. And then we'll do a few prayers. When you come back, we'll do the prayers together, all the people. Oops. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for all your wonderful questions, Jane. They've been great. Yes, darling. What's the question?
Is 2 plus 2, Robina, 4, or is it 22?
I don't know what you're talking about.
If you have 2 and you have 2, is that 4 or is 2?
I don't know why you're asking me such a stupid question.
I'm just asking.
But it's a stupid question, so I'm not going to answer it. You just go to your maths book and find out what the answer is. Because it's not a question of making it up, it's a question of looking at the system. And whatever the system says, whatever the mathematicians say, it's the basis of all buildings and all engineering and all computers and all tables and all carpentry and all everything, you better go find out. Because if it is 22, you'll be in big trouble. So don't extrapolate, don't fantasize, don't be creative. See what the law says. It's just a simple law. And work out what they say and learn it.
With all due respect,
Yes.
didn't want to say you're being inconsistent. That's why I asked it as a question, because
No, you're missing. Okay, thank you. I accept. I apologise for my lack of clarity in not saying it properly.
well, I heard what you had said, and then
Jane, I totally understand, and I apologise for being less clear. I'm so sorry. It's my mistake completely. You're right. You're absolutely right. I wasn't clear, and I'm very sorry. I speak far too fast. So I'm really glad you clarified the point. Thank you very much, sweetheart. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jane.
thank you.
It's a pleasure, guys. So go to the toilet or something, please. Oh, don't go to the toilet. Don't go to the toilet, it's all right. We're ready. They all come back, and then Cherry comes. She wants to make a mandala offering again. We can do a few dedication prayers. Have a nice auspicious ending. Be good.
But we're just getting started.
What do you mean, darling?
I mean, we're just really getting to the meat of it, don't you think?
What do you mean? Who? Who's we? The class.
Yeah, I think the momentum of the last 3 days.
Oh, that's your experience, not mine.
Okay.
That's because you built up over the 9 days, and now you're beginning to hear it. Taking you 9 days to hear it, maybe what you're saying.
Yeah.
So take it as your own personal experience. Good. So who's missing? It's all here now? That's it? Oh, there's some more. Are they all gone? That's it? Okay. Good. Then we'll do a few dedication prayers. We haven't done any dedication prayers yet, Cherry. We'll do a few. So let's look at the dedication prayers. The red one. And remember, all the thoughts, we're putting seeds in our mind for exactly these things. Okay. Okay. Page 235. So we just, think too what we're doing. Think. We've been here how many days? Our 9th day, isn't it, Cherry?
9 days.
Is it 9 days? Okay. Some of us have not been here 9 days, some have. So every single moment of however long we've been here, Jane's been here 9 days, every single moment, of every single word we've heard, this is including me, okay? I'm just sitting here spouting these words, listening really intently and getting lots of things, so I'm really grateful to you. Thank you so much. So much has got clearer for me. Thank you. Just by speaking it. Marvellous. So every single thing we've heard, even if we don't remember it, has gone in, left a seed there, left an imprint, programmed us, left an impression, taken a photo, stored it away. And then every day we think it, it nourishes that and grows it stronger in us. Which is what we call learning, but which is what Buddha calls the law of karma. That's how he calls it. And so how marvellous that every single thing we've done, all this virtue, all the insights, all the meditating, all the food, all the eating, all the silence, all the listening, all the teaching, all the thinking, all the discussing, all of this amazing hard work for 9 days, 3 days, 4 days, however many, left these incredible seeds in the mind. So what we're going to do, because we motivated either every day or in the beginning to do this so that we can become a Buddha because we're suffering sentient beings, so we now dedicate for those very sentient beings. We think, why have I done all this? Why have I been doing all this? What is the purpose of all of this? It's sort of like you're a gardener and you're sowing all these seeds. And you think, why am I doing this? Well, it's obvious. When you get the veggies, you can share them, isn't it? It's for others. So saying here, when I become a Buddha, which is the result of these seeds, when I become a Buddha, which is the result of these seeds, because we're motivated to do that every day, then I will be qualified to benefit others. That's why dedicating it, giving it away, remembering why am I growing these veggies? For others. Why am I becoming a Buddha? For others. Think this way. The dedication is all about that. Plus leaving the imprints in the mind with the Buddha, with the Vajrasattva, with the teachings, with bodhicitta, with emptiness, all the different words that are in the prayers. So we think. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, which is listening to the teachings and meditating, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings, without exception, into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, that has not arisen, arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Over the left. May the precious view of emptiness that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. This prayer is the summary, it seems, of that entire marvellous prayer which we never did, called the King of Prayers. This incredible, over-the-top aspirational prayer, the King of Prayers, about the Bodhisattva path. This is a summary of that whole one. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samadhabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. And now go to the next page. Go over. Let's see which ones we can do. You can do them all, but we won't. So then go down to number 10. No, go to number 7. Number 7. In all my lives, through the victorious one, Lama Tsongkhapa, acting in person as the Mahayana Guru, may I never turn aside for even an instant from the excellent path praised by the victorious one. Page 237. Yeah. In whatever way you appear, glorious Guru, with whatever retinue, lifespan, and pure land, whatever noble and holy name you take, may I and others attain only these. Every supreme and mundane attainment follows solely upon pure devotion to you, my Saviour. Seeing this, I give you up my body and even my life. Please bless me to practice only what will please you. I now go to the next page, Lama's a couple of pages on, and these prayers of Lama Zopa. Due to the merits, page 240, due to the merits accumulated over the 3 times by myself and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which are empty from their own side, may I, who is empty from its own side, achieve the state of enlightenment which is empty from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are empty from their own side to that state as quickly as possible by myself alone. That's the brave attitude of the Bodhisattva. If I don't do it, who will? And then we can do the very end. The long life prayers of the Holy Gurus. The long life prayers, page 271, 272. The short prayers for Lama Zopa Rinpoche and His Holiness, thinking of all of our holy lamas. 2.7. But also there's another prayer here. Do go to 273. Right. So we'll do this one first. Gangri rawe korwe jinamdir pendang dewa malu jongwe ne chenre zigwang tenzin gyatso yi shape site bardu tengyur chi. And now we say the next prayer, which Rinpoche says we should do after His Holiness. Saviour of the snow lion teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. And then now we can do the short, long life prayer of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, page 279. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honouring the 3 jewels. Saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. And then there's a long life prayer for Lama Tenzin Urso Rinpoche, Lama Yeshe's reincarnation. And we'll just do one of these verses, which is the one on the top of page 282. Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for those wanderers in far-off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us in intentionally descending again into a family of a far-distant land, we make this request, O Lama, please, please live long. And then we go to the multiplying mantras, to multiply all the virtues created these last 9 days, which is the next page. No, it's not. Where is it? Okie doke. Thank you, Al. All right. Chomdende dejen chekpada jompayan dakpa zope sange nampa nangse uki gelpola chag selo jamchob sempa sempa chenpo kuntu zangpola chag selo Tayata panchagriya awa bodhani soha om duru duru jaya mukhe soha Tayata panchagriya awa bodhani soha om duru duru jaya mukhe soha Tayata panchagriya awa bodhani soha om duru duru jaya mukhe soha Tayata panchagriya awa bodhani soha om duru duru jaya mukhe soha Tayata panchagriya awa bodhani soha om duru duru jaya mukhe soha Tayata panchagriya awa bodhani soha om duru duru jaya mukhe soha Tayata panchagriya awa bodhani soha om duru duru jaya mukhe soha. Chomjende dejen shepada jompayan dapa zope sange gemegi agi labeduya uki gelpola chagselo. Chomjende dejen shepada jompayan dapa zope sange nyowa dongmun lam samcherab chu dupe gelpola chagselo. Due to the power of the blessings of the eminent Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the power of infallible dependent arising, and the power of my pure special attitude, which means bodhicitta, may all my pure prayers succeed immediately. Remember, prayers, all of these, you see, they're aspirations. May this, may that, may this. And everything, or wishes. And as Rinpoche says, which is karma, everything exists on the tip of the wish. This is what causes things. This is what causes things. So now, end of day dedication prayers, by pacifying all the signs of obstacles and by perfecting every single required condition, may the Dharma tradition of the Dharma King, Tsongkhapa, be preserved and developed. Due to the 2 types of merit collected over the 3 times by myself and others, may the teaching of the far-famed victorious one's pure wisdom blaze forth. And may we never develop, even for a moment, wrong views towards the deeds of our most precious gurus. With faith and respect gained from seeing their goodness, may their full inspiration flow into our hearts. Okie doke. Thank you, buddy. I'm going to do the Magdalene offering. Wrong one? Okay, so just remember what we're doing, the long one, if you want to follow it. Page what? If you want to follow, in Tibetan. Okay, where's the English? Same? Yeah. Okay, if you want to follow it. Otherwise, just close your eyes and daydream all the amazing offerings. That's much more meritorious in a way, because you think of all the beautiful things, all the stars, all the moons, all the jewels, all the music, all the food. Really try and use your creative imagination to pile it all up in an amazing pile to offer as a thanksgiving for the teachings, as if the Buddha were here himself, thanking him for the teachings. So think like that. Okay. Or say it as you wish. Om Vanchen Seji Saji Om Vajrasattva Om Chi Chak Su Rigya Porirab Shalupakpo, Lord Zambuling, No Balancha, Jamin Yen, Ludang Lupag, Nyab Dan Yayab Jen, Yoden Dan Lam Chodro, Dramin Yen Dang Dramin Yen Yida, Rinpoche Riwo Pak Sangi Sing, Dodoyo Bama Mopai Lotok, Kolo Rinpoche, Norbo Rinpoche, Sunmo Rinpoche, Lampo Rinpoche, Lampo Rinpoche, Tacho Rinpoche, Markon Rinpoche, Techen Voi Bumpa, Germa, Trengwa Ma, Luma, Karma, Metogma, Dupoma, Nanselma, Jishama, Nima, Dawa, Rinpoche, Dup, Choglanampa, Gyawa, Gyalsen, Usudla, Jangni, Peljor, Punsum, Topa, Matang, Wamepa, Sangjing Yidu, Wangwa, Didak, Drinchen, Sawa, Dan Yupa, Chepe, Palden, Lama, Dampa, Namdan, Kepe, Duyang. So, Jene Dak So Goa, Madio Nam Kete Danyam Pesem Chen Tamchela, Tukse Wapen Kogone, Jingi Lab to So. Okay. No Saji Perky? Perky, Roshi. Meto Tramira Bingshi Nide Yen Padi Sange Jindu Mikse right way here. The front of it, you know where the front of it is? You should learn this. Do it the right way. I don't know the right way. I have no idea. Just a check. And as we say this mantra, imagine the Lord Buddha happily accepting all our requests and all our offerings. Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niyachayami. Okay. A sweet word for rude. Sounds so respectful, isn't it?
And we are deeply grateful for the extraordinary ability that you have of conveying meaning to suffering entities like us, the sake of the Dharma, and we pray with earnest devotion that you will come teach us again very, very soon.
Happy to come then. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. I always have to say this. I always think of you all coming, because wouldn't I look stupid by talking to myself in the room? So it gives me, I mean, I'm not kidding when I say, for me, this is my analytical meditation, having to go blah, blah, you know. So grateful we will be together. And I really sincerely mean every time I have to speak this stuff, one little more penny drops and one little bit of clarity comes. So it's an amazing experience for me, and I'm totally delighted in it. And I am sorry I'm being rude. Thank you so much, though. Thank you for all your wonderful questions. Thank you for all your questions, Jane. All your questions, everybody. All your questions, Corey. All your questions, John. All your questions, everybody. Yeah, we all take photos. We take photos, can't we? We want to take photos, don't we? So take photos for sure, Marisa. And all your questions, Marisa. Thank you, darling.